When I was a kid, perhaps 7 or 8, a shadow appeared in the corner of my room. It was pacing rapidly back and forth. At the time, I was too scared to put my glasses on and thus did not get a good look at it. Rather, I turned over and shut my eyes. It never appeared again. However, sometime after that, a woman would appear at the foot of my bed. She was blonde and always faced away. The only time she appeared was early in the morning after I woke up. But before I got out of bed, curiously, she appeared to be dressed as an 18th century soldier, which sounds strange since women did not serve in the military at that time. It's also worth noting that no one in my family has blonde hair. At some point, this stopped, possibly because I started waking up later. At various points in my life afterwards, I would feel as if someone was with me, guiding and protecting me. This presence was never threatening in any way. Over time, the experiences described above were forgotten. It might also be worth noting that throughout my entire life, I've often connected to a much greater power than myself that was present in the entire world around me. However, it probably has nothing to do with the story. I only mentioned it because my mom and grandmother are sensitives, psychically speaking, so the sense of connection might be relevant. Fast forward to a year ago, in 2011 I was 25 and in graduate school. By that point, I had long since forgotten everything above. I began to be interested in paganism, specifically Wicca. Now, my interest in it is not relevant per se, since I don't practice on my own and have not intentionally summoned anything. What matters is that several months of going to pagan rituals rekindled my interest in the paranormal. My earlier experiences began coming back to me. Randomly one day about 2 weeks ago, mid-July 2012, I became interested in sex spells and sex magic, but practiced neither. However, I did run across a spell to summon a succubus. It basically involved envisioning what one wanted her to look like while masturbating. I spent about an hour a day dreaming of what I would want a succubus to look like. By the way, I did not masturbate. Yet that night, right after going to bed, I felt someone sit on the edge of my bed and touch my leg. At the time, this made me nervous, so I told the presence to go away. A thought appeared in my head that wasn't mine. Is that any way to treat a lady? That piqued my interest somewhat, so I told the entity to touch me again. At this point, I was laying on my stomach. Moments later, there was a sensation like fingers on my lower back. The next night, the entity returned. I had done some research and got nervous that the entity might be out to suck my energy and possibly kill me. So I told her off, even saying, "Demon, be gone." A thought appeared in my head. Suit yourself. The next day, I felt a powerful sense of loss, as if someone I loved had left me. Around this time, I ran across this site and saw that some people had had positive experiences with succubi, and that not all were bad, just as not all people are bad. The entity returned a day or two later. Using a suggestion from another story, I tried to communicate by having the entity raise my hands for yes and no. Though this method, she revealed the following: she is a succubus, is powerful, but not dangerous, is not monogamous, and doesn't mind if I have other lovers, and we share a bond. She would not reveal her name, but let me call her Sadira. She also revealed that she'd been with me for years. It was at this point that the experiences described in the second paragraph came back to me. Shadira has apparently been watching over me most of my life, but only manifested recently. Not long afterwards, she gave me an orgasm that was more powerful than anything I'd ever experienced. It was electric, as if someone was shooting energy into my lower body. It made me feel a bit sick the next day, so she did not repeat it. But in the 2 weeks since that night, she has visited on a daily basis. Shadira takes control of my hands and pushes buttons I didn't even know I had. While I have offended her a few times by thinking of her more of a sex toy than a powerful woman she is, I am otherwise comfortable with her presence. The only scary experience was when she decided to cuddle by essentially laying on top of me with her body draped over mine. That freaked me out a bit, but I have no significant other right now, and having one might be less of an issue anyway since Shadira is not monogamous, and feel totally comfortable with her. Curiously, we have not had sex, which is different than many other experiences. Her reason was that she is powerful in the astral world, but not the physical world. That kinda makes sense, but my knowledge of this area is limited. In the summer of 2008, I moved to North Carolina with my family for a fresh start in life. Life was exceptional for the most part. By December, we purchased a new home and were officially settled. During the open house, one of the rooms had a strange air to it, as if something was already living there. Being the curious 13-year-old I was, I picked the room as my own. The first few months were fine. I enjoyed living there and life progressed normally. The house was located in a small subdivision with about 15 other homes. To the left of the subdivision was a cemetery. I've always been a believer of entities, ghosts, spirits, and the likes. So whenever there were random shadows and noises, I just thought of it as a wanderer from the local cemetery. I always used to stay up until about 3 or 4 a.m. gaming away, so I heard a lot of activities that went on in the house at night. A few times, I heard footsteps across the hallway in the front of my room. In February 2009, I saw an entity take shape into the form of an adolescent girl who was about 14. The same age as I was in 2009. I hadn't known what to do, so I let things take its course and we ended up having intercourse a few times throughout the months. I had talked to some of my good friends and they told me they would come over and help dispel the succubus, as they aren't to be trusted and only use you for their own benefit. I refused, as I've been able to have conversations with her and she seemed to care about me. In December, my girlfriend broke up with me for confidential reasons. I stormed into my room that night for bed utterly depressed. Kim, by the way, who's the succubus, immediately phased into shape and tried to figure out what was wrong. I explained everything as best as I could to her, and for the first time, instead of going straight for the golden pleasure, she held me in her cool, soothing arms, reassuring me everything will be alright. Every time I'm down, upset, or just out of it, she would appear and comfort me to the best of her ability. She attached to me for some reason, and when I moved to Florida in March, she came with us, using me as her new possession so she could leave the house and cemetery. She saved me from turning into roadkill last month. As I was biking home from school, being the idiot I was, I pedaled fast and was staring at the front tire. By the way, I love to watch the road flash by for some reason. It was about to shoot straight into traffic when she whispered, "Stop." And I managed to brake in time instead of shooting off the curb into the path of an 18-wheeler truck. Right now, I'm doing great in life and everything is going pretty well. Yet I haven't seen her in a few weeks. I want to know, is it okay to keep her? I don't want to if she's an actual ghost. I don't want to be selfish and keep her from finding her own happiness in the afterlife. I want to help her. It's the least I can do for all the time she has helped me. Any comments and insight are much appreciated.